Here comes a friend Bob Sturm from the Ticket in Dallas. He's a part of the Drive Time team, and the radio show is very, very popular. How have you been, my friend? And does Stars Wild excite you?
Of course it does, PA. Great to hear your voice again. And it's that time of year. The hockey playoffs are just wonderful, but for one of these two exciting teams and fan bases, the playoffs aren't going to last very long, are they?
Bob, which team do you think is better overall and why?
I think the Stars are the better team, and I would probably say that's based on a few years of experience, but the Wild are the new mystery guest. As you know, they have put themselves together a nice roster this season, and they have added one of the true superheroes of our sport. And therefore, they must be reconsidered with an all new cast. And coming off the Olympics, who's going to doubt the Minnesota Wild and what they got cooking? So that's a real formidable team these days. And I'm not positive that the Wild were always considered formidable come playoff time, but I think this year might be a different deal.
Yeah, you're an elite hockey mind, man, and you know what Norris winning candidates look like, high-end blue liners look like. With Quinn Hughes, he's diminutive, so the low-hanging fruit that he faces all the time, beat him up in the corner, dump and chase, beat him up, stuff like that. But like to your trained eye, when you follow and or watch Quinn Hughes, what's some of the nuance you really appreciate?
Well, just the vision. You know, he's a gifted playmaker, and we see it in basketball all the time with maybe even somebody like Luka Doncic. Like, how did he see that guy in the corner when nobody else does? And that's Quinn Hughes. He's so confident on the puck. And yes, to call him a defenseman probably misses the true gifts that he's more of just a gifted quarterback who sees the whole field and then the confidence to try things that others wouldn't do. And he's one of those guys, PA, that when he played for Vancouver, Vancouver was never a team that was thought of as a contender, but that was the type of guy where you said, "Oh, Quinn Hughes is in town. I need to go see that genius play," because he's just a credit to the sport and one of those gifted guys. And being an American, USA hockey fan my whole life and thinking that's probably my favorite hockey team is Team USA over any NHL team. I will just say I've been on the Quinn Hughes train for very long and therefore was not quite excited to see him land in the division when he was traded. That was one of those deals where, as a Stars enthusiast, you're just like, oh, any other division would have been perfect. But now we probably have to deal with him for 2 weeks in April, and here we are.
Hey, Bobby, Lakeville, Minnesota's Jake Ottinger is having Ottinger in goal a major separator in this thing. Now, FIGA, Fairness and Goalie Act. Volstead played really well last night in front of a bunch of backups too. So and Gustafson, beloved Gus Bus, I think he's given up like 25 goals over the last 6 games. So maybe it's Volstead in game 1, but Ottinger, man, he's just a stone wall, isn't he?
Well, he's very good, and down here there's a little bit of like Dak Prescott sort of commentary, in that if anything goes wrong, they do quickly blame Ottinger, just because that's how a big part of the casual hockey fan base works. In terms of if a goal is scored against my favorite team, it must be because my goalie stinks. But in this sort of triangle of power in the Central with Colorado and Minnesota and Dallas, you would say, well, the Avalanche don't really know who their goalie is. The Wild are still trying to sort out who their best goalie is, but the Stars have a guy who's won Game 7s in each of the last several springs. He beat the Avalanche in a Game 7 last year. He beat Hellebuck in a head-to-head series last year. He's beat Vegas in a Game 7 a couple of years ago. So Ottinger is tested. He does fizzle out in the Western Conference Finals, but I think Connor McDavid has a lot to do with that, and Leon Draisaitl, and that's a good problem. Is if you're losing in the conference finals every year, that sounds like a very good hockey first world problem. And so Ottinger does have a confidence. The Stars do believe in him, and there's no question he's their guy. So if there's a big advantage in the series, and I'm not sure there is a big advantage, but you would say stability in goal is something Dallas can kind of lean on.
That's a high end point. Bob Sturm, the ticket in Dallas, and Blackwood and Wedgwood, and Volstead and Gustafson, and then Ottinger standalone, and he's really good. That's a great point. When hey Bob, when Dallas gets in trouble, and Dallas didn't finish the season that great. But when the Stars get in trouble, and I know there are some injuries, and things ain't going great, what's happening?
Well, for me, it's not having all the pieces together, and I don't want to act like they're the only team that deals with injuries, but they do seem to have a habit of losing key guys to injury at just the wrong time of the season the last couple of years. And they play pretty well, given that Rope Hintz, their top center, and without question their best puck carrier from the offense to the defense, or it's from the defensive zone to the offense. Like you guys have Quinn Hughes, who can carry the puck all the way up the ice. You have a few other options, but the Stars, they don't have a ton of puck carriers, and Rope gives you that speed and that play in the neutral zone that is tough to replicate. So when he's gone, and he's been hurt each of the last several years, and he's hurt again this year, and I'm not saying he's fragile, but I am saying he plays a style that puts him in harm's way from time to time, and he's been out since March 6th. And they're hoping he's back for the first series. But yesterday, Glenn Gulson said he's not probably in for games 1 or 2. And so they just become a much more limited offensive team and much more reliant on the power play when he's gone. And so that's kind of the deal. Is just having a more dynamic offense, and I think when things have gone down this year, it's because their star cast is not fully intact, and Hintz being down is part of that. So that's something for the Wild to say, well, maybe we can pull 1 or 2 games out of Dallas in games 1 and 2 to start the series, and then you really put the Stars on notice quickly.
What about Heiskanen? I mean, it feels like he may miss, maybe a game or 2, and I mean that it's looking at it from afar, and I know we got Cale Makar and Werenski and the rest of the cats, but I mean, Heiskanen can, with 63 points, man, he can win the Norris. Not having him, where would that hurt?
Well, it really hurts in their own end, because he's got some Nick Litt momentum to kick it old school and just say that he puts out so many fires on his own end that he's one of those rare two-way defensemen in this era of championing these defensemen who score lots of points. Miro puts out a lot of fires, and many of them you don't even see in your own end. So to be able to play him big minutes with Esa Lindell defensively, hypothetically, you would match that up against your Kaprizovs or your Boldies and guys like that, and sort of neutralize them. So not having that is always a big deal. Miro is very underrated, and he's partly because he's not Makar or Hughes offensively. Those guys are unbelievable offensively, but I think his two-way balance makes him just a real key for the Stars at all times, and therefore his health is always a concern. And again, every spring it feels like the Stars deal with this sort of deal, and they still win 2 series every year. But honestly, PA, not to consider history an indicator, I would just say that in this league where winning series year after year, they're kind of due for a first round stinker. I don't mean to be fatalistic for the Dallas Stars, but how many years in a row can you get out of rounds 1 and 2 like they have? Almost nobody else in the league this side of the Florida Panthers have been able to do this for 3 straight years. So if they can do it a 4th year like this, you're just going to have to say one of these years they're going to win a Stanley Cup if they keep this up.
Oh, Bobby Sturm from the Ticket down Big D way, down Dallas way. It's a drive time show. It's very good. A couple of quickies to close here. A couple of minutes, you get it all. Bob, who would you rather employ and why? Kaprizov and Boldy or Robertson and Johnston?
Ooh, wow, that's great. Johnston is, in my opinion, the difference maker there because he's such a talented centerman, and if the Wild do have a weakness, it's up the middle, and the Stars, of course, with Hintz down, they put so much on Wyatt Johnston. So I know the sharp hockey minds don't need to be introduced to Wyatt Johnston, but at 22 years old, and he came into the league at 18, and he's just been phenomenal. If you redraft that draft he's in, he probably is the 1-1. And because of COVID and because of the weirdness of that draft he was in, I think he went 23rd. The Stars actually traded back to get him. And so I everybody knows Robertson, everybody knows Kaprizov. They're unbelievable players. Boldy's had a huge year, and I would love to get him on my squad someday. But I think Wyatt Johnston can be the difference maker, partly because he's played in 3 Game 7s in his life, PA, and he scored a goal and a game winner in all 3 of them. Ooh. And that's pretty hard to do.
That's really good. Last one, football. The Dallas Cowboys have picks 12 and 20, 8 days from the National Football League round 1. What do you think old Jerry Jones has up his sleeve, Bobby?
I think they're going to try to get up. I think they're going to try to use 12 and 20 or 12 and 92 if they can get away with it. But I think they're very concerned that by the time we get to 12, their big 6 on defense are going to be cleaned out, and I think they're going to try to get in front of Washington. So everybody's talking about that trade up with Cleveland, where you might get 6 and 39 in exchange for 12 and 20. I see that as a win-win for both sides. And then you sneak up in front of Washington and you grab Sonny Styles. I think that would be the 1A plan of Jerry and the boys to look for next week when they're on the clock.
You're fantastic, man. Hit them straight and strong if you're golfing today, and have a good radio show later. And we'll talk soon, maybe even next week. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, PA. We'll talk to you soon.
See you about Bob Sturm, the ticket in Dallas at Sports Sturm via X, if you would like to follow him, if only for the Wild Dallas series. He's a terrific follow, specifically during series where the Wild plays his team, the Dallas Stars. Back to the NBA around the corner. We welcome a new friend to the Love Covenant to talk about the Wolves and the Nuggets, and that's next. A new friend into the 9 to noon presentation. 24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. It's Paul Allen. And we welcome Ryan Blackburn into the equation. Covers the Denver Nuggets for Mile High Sports and does podcasts called Locked On Nuggets and Pickaxe and Roll. Hey there, my man. I heard you on Dane Moore's podcast, and very nice to meet you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. Always appreciate being on with Dane, and glad to meet you guys.
Yeah, Dane's a smart NBA my man, as are you. So let's start here. How much better are these Nuggets compared to the group the Wolves beat a couple of years ago?
In theory, they should be better. This is a more versatile group. This is a team, I think, that was less reliant on having an elite starting lineup than they were in 2024. And that year, obviously, they suffer a Murray injury where he looks pretty hampered with a calf throughout that entire time. But more than that, that team had 3 players at the top in Reggie Jackson, Christian Brown, and Justin Holiday that were really their only 3 bench guys that they played. All 3 smaller guards and wings. This year, they've got a little bit more versatility. Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr. Should be, in theory, an upgrade over those guards. And they've also got guys like Peyton Watson, Spencer Jones, who's a two-way who they converted to a full-time deal, and a guy in Jonas Valanciunas, who, if they need a bigger big behind Nikola Jokic, then they can go that direction. So in theory, this team should be better. I like the way that they fit a little bit better, but I think the Wolves in some ways are better too.
Well, that good point. I mean, Bruce Brown, he ain't going to score anything for you, but he'll, that on-ball defense, man, specifically in the postseason with that big upper body, yeah, he can be a handful. And then you mentioned Tim Hardaway Jr. He's been around forever, and he doesn't do much outside of hit threes, and then he's in and out. I mean, he's hot and cold. But if Tim Hardaway Jr. is forgotten about, he'll put 25 on you in about 5 minutes, right?
Undoubtedly. He led the entire NBA in bench-made threes this year. And in a couple of games against the T-Wolves, especially early in the season, was a pivotal difference in the way that they closed the game. Had some big runs from three. And that's the thing about this Nuggets team, I think, that is most different from that 2024 team and really last year's 2025. They had so much attention that was being paid to Jokic that teams just abandoned the perimeter most of the time. They decided, we're going to pack the paint, we're going to put 5 guys in there or pretty close to it, and we're going to avoid help, or we're not going to help him on any of these other guys. And as a result, you can take as many shots as you want to. In this particular matchup, I don't think that's going to be as big of a deal, because I think Rudy Gobert is probably going to be guarding Jokic a fair amount of this time as opposed to in the previous matchup. But I do think that this Wolves team, of course, still very dangerous on the defensive end and the offensive end. And the Nuggets will have to be prepared for just about everything that Chris Finch tries to deploy.
Ryan Blackburn from the Mile High City at NBA Blackburn. If you'd like to follow him on X, as a 9 to noon does, at NBA Blackburn. He'll have some elite stuff during the course of the series and up to it also. Now, with what you just said about Chris Finch and just about the Timberwolves and coaching and everything, during the Jace Frederick, who covers the team for the Pioneer Press, I see one of his tweets in front of me now. In the Anthony Edwards Finch era, Minnesota is 4-0 in game ones in the playoffs when having 3 days or more to prepare for a known opponent. The average margin of victory is 17. What do you think of all that and the Chris Finch staff?
That's a great stat. That is extremely indicative of Chris Finch. Mike and Nori, somebody who we're obviously very familiar with in Denver as well. And we're familiar with Chris Finch and familiar with the way that he prepares his teams and how familiar he is with the Jokic system. I do think that, like, in theory, this year might be a little different. I won't sit here and say that it will be, but last year in the playoffs, David Adelman for the Nuggets also helped the Nuggets get to 2-0 in game ones.
Yep.
It was a surprising game one win that they had against the Oklahoma City Thunder last year. It needed a little bit of help right at the end, obviously, but this Nuggets team has been very prepared. They've been very on point in the David Adelman era, although it's been as short as it has been. I do trust Chris Finch to throw a whole bunch of stuff at Jokic and at the Nuggets, but fortunately for Denver, that's something that, like, they've basically seen everything. And the T-Wolves, I think, maybe a little bit less that they can throw at Denver specifically than in previous iterations, with Karl Anthony Towns as the size matchup with Rudy Gobert rotating over. Denver's seen the forward, like Julius Randle or Jaden McDaniels, guard Jokic a lot of the time with their rim protector roving over. So I'm not sure how much Chris Finch is going to be able to surprise the Nuggets, but it's on the Nuggets to prove that. And if Denver can get by Minnesota, and Denver's a 3.5 to 1 favorite, personally, I think the minus 340, minus 350 is a little too high. I thought it'd be 250, 260, but we'll see how the thing plays out. But if and or when Denver gets by Minnesota, it plays Oklahoma City and San Antonio so well. I mean, I think it went 3-1 against San Antonio, 1-3 against OKC, but all the games were close. Is that accurate? I mean, and a couple of Saturdays ago, the Nuggets and Spurs with that 136-134, that was a basketball immortality-like game, man. It was a lot of fun. Those are the games that you live for if you're a basketball fan. You want to see some of the best and some of the most unique players go at it against each other, and that's what happened with Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama in that particular game. The Spurs are still so inexperienced overall that they are a little bit vulnerable. I think that they're still extremely talented. They're probably a more talented team than the Nuggets are. But in terms of realizing that talent and going through the motions of and understanding how a playoff series is going to unfold, it leaves them just a little bit vulnerable for their first run in the playoffs as a group. As for OKC, I mean, that team is just unreal. Like they're a crazy team, and they know how to get under Denver's skin in a way. Denver does play them relatively close when all things are equal, but over the course of the last year, OKC's found ways to make it unequal, to make it as disparate as possible and get under Jokic and Murray's skin with some of the best defenders of this generation. So it's going to be interesting if Denver's able to make it that far, but that would be overlooking what Minnesota's capable of doing. I do agree with you that a minus 350, 360 kind of money line spread for a series is way too much. That is too high for where these Minnesota and Denver games usually go.
Ryan Blackburn with some really good NBA takes on the Wolves and the Nuggets, etc. And he covers said Denver team for Mile High Sports, has some podcasts called Locked On Nuggets and Pickaxe and Roll at NBA Blackburn to learn more via the Twitter machine. Is it, Ryan, with Jokic, is it easier said than done getting him to settle for 3-point shots?
It depends on where he's at from a conditioning and health standpoint. A lot of times when he is at his best, he is pushing the envelope. He's trying to get into the paint. He is trying to create shots for other people from inside out. And so often what that means is that he is not settling for threes. Lately, like ever since the injury that he suffered with his knee, his 3-point shooting has been lower. He's found a little bit of a rhythm over the course of these past couple of weeks, I would say. But before then, he was settling for a lot of threes, and he does get into kind of this dangerous mode when he is settling for those threes for Denver on a consistent basis, because he could try to be proving a point. He could try to be taking good shots. And for him, when he's shooting 40%, they are good shots. But when he's shooting 30%, it's a little bit less likely that they are successful. In the Wolves series last time, he shot poorly from three. That's one of the margins that Minnesota was able to win in that particular series. If the Nuggets are going to win this series this time around, if Joker's going to hit those threes, that forces guys like Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid out of the paint even more, and then creates those driving opportunities and passing opportunities behind them. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I would say that's a good bellwether for the series for sure. Driving and passing opportunities for the best playmaking center in the history of the NBA. I like how you laid that out. Hey, how is Cam Johnson rounding into form, given it's his first season playing there? It took a while. It took a while with him, but he is great. He is really, really good at the Nuggets role that they are trying to have him play, which is basically a complementary role to what the Jokic and Murray duo has been. In the pecking order for the Nuggets, you know you're going to have Jokic taking the most amount of possessions. Murray will take the second most. Those guys, it's not necessarily about shots or passes or assists or whatever. It's just about who's getting the open shot. But with Aaron Gordon coming back, his ability to scale up in certain situations puts Cam Johnson into a really good position where he just kind of has to space to guard on the perimeter and to switch as much as possible and play a high IQ game, fill the right lanes in fast break and in transition. And I think he's done that really, really well. The shooting percentages reflect that, but also just his feel and his understanding of how and when to impact the game, where to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that he gets. He is figuring it out. How that translates into a high pressure playoff environment, I don't know. We haven't seen him yet, and he's had some lower moments in the playoffs before. I'll be curious to see how Minnesota decides to guard him, because in the previous series between these two teams, they took out Michael Porter Jr. with Jaden McDaniels and did a really, really good job of that. And Michael Porter wasn't really able to do anything about it. is that needed in this particular series, or can you get away with Anthony Edwards, Dante DiVincenzo, some other wing on Cam Johnson and allow Jaden McDaniels to guard on the ball? That is a really good question. If that matchup were to switch, if one of those smaller guys were to happen, I do think that Cam Johnson needs to get more aggressive for this team.
A couple of quickies to close here. At NBA Blackburn, Gravy trained these great takes from the Dane Moore podcast, and for that, we're thankful for Dane. How the Rocky Mountain region, how fired up does Denver and said region get when the Nuggets are in the playoffs?
Pretty well. I would say that the Rocky Mountain region in general is more playoff oriented. There are the diehards, as there always are with all of these teams, but there's been a lot of waiting. There's been a lot of anticipation. And as the season has gone on, Nuggets fans were really hyped at the beginning when Denver went 10-2 at their first couple of games. They had a great Christmas game. But then because of the injuries and because Jokic went down and Aaron Gordon and Cam Johnson and Christian Brown and Peyton Watson and all these guys, it's been a waiting game for a while in the Mile High City. Now, as they've closed the year on a 12-game winning streak, as everybody's excited, everybody, I think, has a little bit more belief than they did before the 12-game winning streak, certainly. I think this place is going to be rocking on Saturday. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The last matinee that I went to was the San Antonio Spurs game, the Nuggets Spurs game. So they're going to be ready for it. And I think that is still some animosity with the Wolves in terms of, hey, Nuggets fans remember that series. They remember how that thing went. They remember last year when the Wolves swept Denver 4-0 and it basically led to Michael Malone's firing. So there's a lot of pressure there that I think will be applied. And I think Nuggets fans will be ready for this series to start in earnest.
Let's put the NFL to the side. So the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix to the side. Who's more popular and why? The Nuggets or the Avalanche?
I think it's the Nuggets, and part of that is because Jokic's dominance for however long, it's been 8 straight years that he's been to an all-star team. And I think you could make an argument that he's been the best player in the world for 5 or 6 of those years. But Nathan McKinnon and the Avs they are rolling. They have been rolling for a while. They've been the most dominant NHL team in the entire league for a long time. And I think I think Nuggets fans and Avs fans are all spoiled at this point. Everybody in Colorado has been doing great. DU hockey just won the Frozen Four again at the college level, and Denver's got the Denver Summit women's soccer team. There's everybody is just rolling sports wise in this town. It's been a great sports year for the city of Denver. And I think they're all hoping to round it out with some springtime fun with basketball and hockey.
Yeah, then the Rockies actually got hot at Coors Field, but then they went on the road and
who'd know?
I think they went to San Diego, then Houston. It's what happened? We can't hit anymore. All right, last one here with Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn. How about I know you watched the league, man. How about LaMelo last night? Single-handedly tried to lose the game for the Hornets. Then he hits the game-winning shot. Then he drops an F-bomb in the post-game interview on Prime Video. I mean, it's LaMelo. He's just difficult to watch sometimes. Don't you agree?
I tweeted this a few months ago. The Charlotte Hornets, and I'm 29 years old. The first time I've ever felt old covering a basketball team, covering a basketball game, is watching the Charlotte Hornets come to Denver, because they just play with such a youthful Gen Z energy that I have really never seen before. It is really interesting to watch them. But LaMelo's always been talented. He's always been a little bit polarizing for a lot of people. But how about the only player that you could possibly give the first Prime Video playmaker chain to? It had to be LaMelo Ball.
We appreciated the candor. It's I effed the whole game up. So I'm really glad I hit that shot to win it. And it was Miles Bridges with that block at the end, right?
Yes, it was. That was a great game. Both games last night were great. And I think the NBA, F-bombs aside, are pretty happy about how it went.
That was fantastic. And let's do it again sometime during the series, man. Best to you and at NBA Blackburn and everything you do with the podcasting. We appreciate it. Have a good day, okay?
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, guys.
Yep. See you about Ryan Blackburn from the Mile High City, and with some podcasts, Locked On Nuggets, and Pickaxed and Roll, and you can learn more at NBA Blackburn. Johnny Athletic joins us 20 minutes from now. News du Nord is next.
Checked and verified. It is time for News du Nord on 9 to noon, and it's brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Poker, blackjack, table games all year round, feeling the felt, having sips of chips and tipping Derek Allen, and then just in time, Derby Day. It's coming up in a few weeks, so you're going to get the big hats and the mint juleps rolling for Derby Day. That's a party at Canterbury every single year. And then later in May, of course, check CanterburyPark.com. The live racing season itself will kick off in earnest. Expos, music festivals, all sorts of fun things to do at Canterbury. Go to CanterburyPark.com. Let's start with the Minnesota Twins, who, PA, they just can't stop winning. They shut out the Boston Red Sox yesterday at Target Field, and I've heard a lot about the Twins bullpen, and just we're still trying to get to know the Victor Caratinis of the world, et cetera. But what they've put together in terms of, still early, but this rotation, man, from Taj Bradley, Ober gets the win a couple days ago, and then Mick Abel, he was off to an 0-2 start on the mound, but he went 7 yesterday. Did allow 4 hits, but he shut him out with 10 Ks. And I think he's the youngest pitcher. I saw this on social, and maybe I'll butcher it, maybe I won't. That he's the youngest pitcher, I think, since Barrios 8 years ago to put up 10 Ks in a shutout effort. And the Red Sox had no freaking chance yesterday. Keishel's hitting the ball. Jeffers had a great day 2 days ago, but you're seeing Larnach. You're seeing the names you want to see. Brooks Lee, I think, had a home run. You're seeing the right names doing the right things. This team is now 11-7, might be the best record in the American League.
Buxton's on fire, and for Abel to strike out 10 and shut a team out, I mean, that's super impressive. I don't care how sluggardly the Red Sox are playing, and after they got to Crochet, where he only faced 18 batters, knocked him out of the game, hit 4 home runs, and Caratini hit one into the second deck. Garrett Crochet is one of the better pitchers in all of baseball. So the Minnesota Twins have gotten to Tariq Skubal and Garrett Crochet this year. And after the Crochet game, Joey Cora, the manager for the Red Sox, said, "We just embarrassed ourselves, and you will get better the rest of the series." Then they play and get shut out. So Simeon Woods Richardson goes today. That's been a little dicey for the Twins this year, but the squad's red hot. Early is not a bad pitcher for Boston. They just are not hitting right now. 12:40 for the first pitch.
Yeah, and they'll get to chill tomorrow, and then Cincinnati in town to kick things off on Friday. And as I've seen so far, it's an 11-17, but good seats are available. Why don't you find your way to Target Field this weekend? Maybe buy one up in the upper deck, and then find your way to the home run porch by the third inning. Who knows? But the team's good right now, and we love it. To the NBA, the Wolves. We know who we got. We got the Nuggets. It's Saturday at 2:30 p.m., but other teams are still trying to figure it out. And you mentioned it with Blackburn, but the Charlotte Hornets were in a meat grinder last night, and they did find their way to victory.
James has it. Passes to LaMelo. LaMelo circles. LaMelo into the paint. Goes up for the lay-in. Yes! With 5 seconds left. No timeouts for Miami. They get it to Mitchell. Mitchell racing into the front court. Mitchell up for the lay-in. No! It's over! It's over! It's over! The Hornets win! LaMelo Ball's the hero! And Charlotte is going to play for the 8th seed on Friday.
What a riveting, drama-filled play-in game, PA. It took overtime to do it, but that was the go-ahead bucket you heard there, 127-126 over the Miami Heat. And I think it was the Jim Pete conversation where he was talking about just coaching runs in terms of maintaining your playoff lives. Spo and the Heat had done it 8-10 times in a row. This will end that as the Heat season is over. And the Hornets do indeed get to play on Friday night for a chance at the 8th spot. And the Hornets, LaMelo Ball and company, they stay alive. They'll play the winner of Sixers and Magic tonight. That's Sixers and Magic. Now, on the West Coast side, this one kind of stuck with me because you were so pumped. You got to catch the end of that game, the Hornets and Heat, and you were talking about it today. And I remember the late one. I'm like, well, Suns are obviously at home. Just going to rock the Blazers, and they'll find their way in the 7th spot. And then Blazers will sweat it out in a Friday night affair. I think it's Clippers and Dubs. They wait for that game to unfold. They'll play them on Friday. But the Blazers just went out and handled business last night as they beat the Suns 114-110. And I'm definitely going to mispronounce this name. I go with Avdija.
Denny Avdija.
Is it Avdija?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he goes for 41 points, 12 dimes,
something like that,
and 7 boards to push them over the Suns last night. So now the Suns are indeed the ones that have to play on Friday, winner of Clippers Dubs to get their way into the playoffs. The play-in games, while it stinks to be in the play-in, it is cool to be able to sit on your couch and watch these games unfold as we look ahead to the Nuggets on Saturday.
Well, if I'm the San Antonio Spurs, you better be careful. Now, Wemby is otherworldly and might be the MVP of the league. So they have Donovan Clingan, and Portland also has Robert Williams. I don't know if they can get out on the three-point line with Wemby, but we'll see how they craft it. Props to the Blazers, too, by the way, because remember, it was very early in the season where Chauncey Billups, their head coach, became embroiled in that gambling situation. So they lost their coach early in the season. Drew Holiday has been an awesome addition for them. Still one of the better perimeter defenders in the NBA. Scoot Henderson is a young player that they like, and he didn't play for a long time because of injury, so he has really fresh legs. And they just got back scorer Shadon Sharp, who's only played a couple of games, but he can be a problem. So I'm not going to grandstand and be like, Portland absolutely will win this series as big dogs, but they're not going to get swept, and they're a lot better than I and others thought they would be. So that should be a lot of fun.
Some sad news, PA. Dave McGinnis. I don't know if you saw this news. Dave McGinnis sadly passed away at the age of 74. We've had the opportunity to have him on this show to talk about football, but 74 years old. I believe former head coach of the Cardinals. Most recently was doing some work with the Titans, I believe, in Nashville. Isn't that accurate?
Yeah. He was the analyst for the Titans radio network. Dave McGinnis was somebody with whom I chatted extensively at the last 3 combines because he was always there with the Titans, and including this last one. Bursich and I sat down with him during one of these taped interviews that we will unfurl and chatted with him for like 15 minutes. Everything seemed cool. Then a week and change later, he goes to the hospital, and now sadly he's no longer with us. Interesting Dave McGinnis note, the final head coaching game of his National Football League career was at the end of the 2003 season when he coached the Arizona Cardinals, who beat the Minnesota Vikings in that game that bumped the Vikings from the playoffs and elevated Green Bay. And Emmitt Smith also was playing in his final game for Arizona. Dave McGinnis, the head coach. Cardinals quarterback was Josh McCown, who was a rookie from Sam Houston State. And now Josh is the Vikings quarterback's coach. Josh and Dave McGinnis, a couple of Texas guys, very, very close. I would imagine Josh and his family are grieving right now. So may God rest the soul of one of the real characters and good guys in the NFL, Mr. Dave McGinnis.
NFL note to finish mock draft season as it is. Mel Kiper, of course, Widow's Peak and everything associated with him. Love Mel. But he predicts that Zion Young, edge rusher out of Missouri, will be selected by the Chicago Bears next Thursday night. Now, I found this, that Let me see here. I mentioned this in my last mock draft, in which I also had Young to Chicago, but it's worth repeating the Bears haven't used a top 50 pick on an edge rusher since Leonard Floyd went ninth in 2016.
Yep.
It's time to get a little more aggressive at the position during the draft. Kind of the idea of providing a yin to the yang with Montez Sweat on that front. Deo Dangbo did not produce at a high enough level. I've also seen interior defensive linemen being mocked to them. But I am kind of curious, PA, what your thought is. Are they a safety spot at 25? They added Kobe Bryant from the Champs, but their other starting safeties, it's a free agent backup, Cam Lewis, who has played sparingly for the Bills over the last handful of years. Just wondering if they could be a McNeil Allen spot at 25, or if it is just simple, hey, we need a pass rusher, we're going to get him. Interior D-line, the Caden McDonald type cats. Just tricky to see how Ben Johnson makes things that were good even better into 2026.
Well, they did so much defensively in the offseason with free agency. Generally speaking, I would look at the other side of it and be like, hey, they're going to do this. With the right offensive lineman, I'm convinced they would take the right offensive lineman. If the right running back is available, I would definitely keep my eyes on that for the Chicago Bears. But end of the equation, I would not be surprised if they rolled the dice with the guy with the bad foot with Florida, Caleb Banks. And I have a little steam on that too. But it's going to take a lot because Banks has had foot problems for about a year and a half, and he broke his foot at the combine. But if they're able to wait for him and they get that thing right, holy cow, that will be SOD. That'll have some steel of the draft to it.
And that's News to Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park and CanterburyPark.com.
Gone with that Johnny Athletic. He'll be off to Denver soon for the Wolves and Denver Nuggets. We have a box in the box tomorrow, so NBA heavy today and Stanley Cup playoffs heavy tomorrow with box in the box from TRIA. The expectation is John Hines, the coach, and Bill Guerin, the general manager, will be joining us, plus much more. So therefore, let's land the plane on the NBA today with Johnny K. John Krasinski from The Athletic joins next.